We now have all 3 of our expendable rabbit cages up on the hotbed. 1, 2, 3, and Paige is currently feeding beet greens.
Did you show them the beets that they came from?
Yeah. Super fun. Yeah, they're beautiful. That one right there was eating a weed that had blown in, but they weren't eating, like you see the strawberries? They're not eating the strawberry leaves. They really like the Swiss chard. I've got one little weed over here. Let's see, where is it? This right here. That actually needs to be pulled out. This is what he was eating. Is that lamb's quarters? I think that's lamb's quarters. I don't know how that one got in there, but we'll pull it out. Because we don't want it going to seed. Where is it? Is that it? Okay. Do you want to give that to a rabbit?
Look at that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. For some reason they think my wedding ring is going to be delicious, and then it's not delicious. And yes, I did purposefully plant clover in here. I wanted to see how a cover crop would do in a hotbed. Hey guys. What you doing? Hey guys, so it's cold enough now, morning and night, that I want the rabbits inside a greenhouse. The big greenhouse needs to be recharged with rabbit manure. The quail have done a great job, but the rabbits do an amazing job because they're not just pooping, they're also peeing. And urine is a fantastic activator. In this kind of weather, I have to be careful that my camera doesn't freeze, because then it turns off and I'm not aware that it turns off. So I'm going to do my best. I did add strings to the edges. This is what holds the door open. What we've done today is we have, probably can't see it, but we have bird netting up. We're going to move the quail into this side of the greenhouse so that we can move the rabbits into the big greenhouse. And then we're gonna plant in this bed that you're on right now. I'm gonna put a blanket over most of the lathe slats because quail like to be in a dark, safe spot. If they were in nature, they'd be under bushes all the time. They would not be out in the open. So we're gonna have food on this side and then this blanket on the rest of the lathe. I'll try and show you how I'm gonna do it. And that will greatly calm the quail. So once again, I use screws just to hang the bird netting on so that nothing is permanent. Nothing here is permanently attached. So there's that. And then the reason I'm going to use a white blanket is because I do still want the quail to have some sunlight. It's good for them to have sunlight. So there's sunlight through the blanket. You do want to make sure that you have all the little holes plugged, because if they fly up and out, they won't be able to get back out. So we had to plug everything.
on. Hang on. That one just doesn't want to come out.
All right, there we go. All right, they're done. I've got their water. They've got their water, their wet food, and their sand, and their little cover. We'll see how they do. They'll do better once I close the door, so. Having a double layer means, for one thing, it's harder for the cats to go in, but for another thing, if I've made a mistake, if there's an air leak in one layer, having 2 layers kind of gives me better odds. You can see in there. I don't know if you'll be able to see the babies. There they are. Alright, so what we're doing is we're moving the cages in for the rabbits. It's that time of year. It's the middle of December. And that is the time of year when it's cold enough that it's just too cold for them to be out with a lot of free-flowing air. Here we are moving the cages into the greenhouse. We do not move them with the rabbits inside because it's very stressful for a rabbit to have its cage lifted up, and they can even kill themselves if they bash around in the cage too much because they're afraid. So we do it separately. Here we are adding more of the wood lathe supports to the hotbed. They're interchangeable between all the hotbeds, so every time we redo one we have to go steal some from another hotbed that doesn't have rabbits on it, or cut some new ones.
Starting to leave out.
Well, I think it was trying to leaf out when we froze, is what happened. And I just want to leave enough. I think this one will be fine.
How's life?
I'm pretty good if we get this done then.
Woo!
I think that should protect it just fine. Alright. So the reason I put this bucket here is because if the rabbits pee on the figs, it'll kill them. This will keep the figs from getting peed on. Alright, so these are our basic covers. We keep all of them a little bit covered. They are really messy rabbits as far as urine, so it can actually get on the greenhouse plastic. Okay, so this is a grow out pen. It's deeper, it's longer than my breeding pens. This is a buck pen. He doesn't need that much space. This is a grow out pen that we just put the buck in. But and then there is our breeding cage. We only use the hostile Hare cages for our breeders. The other thing we like is those doors are really nice and big, so it's easy to get nest boxes in and out. So there's our mama.
Super sleek.
This mama had 18 babies her first time and 12 babies her second time. The first time she lost 4, so she raised 14 to maturity. This time she birthed 12 and kept all of them. She's a fantastic mother. Yes, honey.
Okay, then
So it goes to the back, and we're gonna move it that way just a little bit so her feeder will fit on. Hi, Mama. And we're gonna lift. We're not gonna drag. Okay, you're gonna lift just a little bit. There. Good. Gross.
Look at that, Mom, before I fell off on something.
Huh?
Look.
All right, and now we're gonna move it back. Beautiful. Why did you do that?
Well, I don't want to puncture the plastic that's on it. Is that far enough back?
Yep. All right, so now she's set up. We're gonna give her some pieces of cardboard to stand on, and hopefully that'll also save the wire a little bit. So, Kaya, you want to go find some nice flat pieces of cardboard? All right, so we've got everything really Lego Tetris fit together. We have all the rabbits in the greenhouse. None are out in the weather. This is not a heated greenhouse, it's just a normal greenhouse. So really the only thing that we have to worry about is to make sure that we have venting in here on really bright days, or it'll get too hot for them even in the middle of winter. So it is, I think it's the December 13th is when we've put them out here. We have nights in the teens and 20s, days in the 30s. And even though they would survive outside, it is still really hard on them. If they were in the ground, it would be one thing because they'd have insulation. But when they're in open air cages, everything can come up, everything can come in. They have a lot of cold wind coming through on them, and we don't want that. We want them to, at the very least, we want them to have not wind on them. So what's happening at this point? They're getting used to new cages. You can hear them kind of digging. My ideal is that I really want to start building the hotbed so that we can put the rabbits down inside so that they have way more space and no wire. I'd really love to be able to do that. I don't have enough materials right now. Everything that I make, all my hotbeds, are almost no cost. They're very inexpensive. I used repurposed materials in all of them. And because of that, they're just very low cost. In order to make it so that it would contain a rabbit safely, I would have to go buy materials. I'd have to go buy some siding to put on the insides. I would have to get some chicken wire to put on the bottoms. And I just don't have the money to do that. These are really big beds. And if the roofing material is like $20 per sheet, and this takes 10 sheets, I'm looking at $200 just in tin. Do I think it's worth it? Yes, I actually do think it's worth it. I'm just not in a position to do it right now. So that is my end goal. A lot of people are frustrated about the cages, but this is how you keep your rabbits away from parasites and away from predators. And if I put them in a hotbed and just let them manure the hotbed free will inside of the hotbed, it could have had birds in it. It can't have compost in it. It can't have anything that's been contaminated by another animal. And so they're safer in the cages than they are in a hotbed the way that I build them currently, which is very cheaply. So hopefully that was interesting to you guys. That's how we switch them back and forth. And then the quail are in the other greenhouse, and I hope that works well for them. We do move things a lot. We transfer things back and forth throughout the season depending on where they need to be for safety and comfort. And that's how we're doing it. The first time I did this, I had one side that I inoculated with rabbit manure tea, and then I had one side that I left not inoculated. And the one that was not inoculated, the one that was just carbon with potting soil on top, did not heat up super hot. It didn't steam, and I didn't get a lot of ammonia off of it. The side that I did inoculate with rabbit manure tea steamed and off-gassed ammonia and started to collapse and grew mushrooms and had mold on it. Not bad mold, but just it starts to break down very quickly. Because I still have the rabbits in here and it's cold enough outside that I really don't want them outside, I'm going to do a cold bed instead of a hot bed on this side, which means I'm going to pack it, get it started, I might put a tiny amount of rabbit manure tea on it just to get it to sink down a little bit and get a little bit of heat out of it. But I don't want a lot of heat, because if you do a lot of heat, it starts to off-gas ammonia. And the ammonia will kill my rabbits and my chickens and my ducks. I would have liked to have planted everything the end of January. I would have liked to have done that, but I just don't dare. Aren't they cute? So anyway, the sawdust is frozen, as you can see. It is not steaming. It just has a lot of frost on it. So this sawdust pile that is the partial source of the hotbed is not hot. And my purpose in here is to show you the steam. Hopefully, I'll try and hold really still so you can see it. So that means I can go ahead and plant it. It's going to break down a lot and it's going to sink a lot, but it means that the bed is warm enough, not freezing, even at night, that I can go ahead and plant into it. Alright, so a lot of times it's dried out a little bit in the bag, so you have to break up the clods. The more moisture the bag has in it, the fewer clods there are. Now, this does not make good potting soil. It doesn't have enough drainage for potting soil. It makes good garden soil. And the reason why you can't just do the reason you can't just do peat moss is that it forms a crust. And it's hard to get the water down into it. It doesn't water efficiently if it's just peat moss. So I put in a lot of perlite. Alright, as long as I have 2 inches of potting soil there for the beginning seedlings, the rest will start to break down and will form its own layer of soil underneath. At this point, I need to come in and water this down and make sure that it's going to be deep enough once I water it, because a little bit of the dirt is going to percolate down into the sawdust. So I'm happy with how this mix looks. Alright, so I have my peas soaked. Alright, I'm going to come in and out very quickly. We're going to see what kind of damage happened last night. When it gets really cold in the winter, I have to cover the plants at night, on top of them being in the greenhouse, on top of them being in the hotbed. So we're going to look. The sun has come up. It's when the sun comes up. It's not when it's still freezing that you know if something died. It's after the sun comes up, after something is frozen, that you know. So they have little droplets on them, which is from frost. That one is the furthest thing away from the hotbed itself. The fig is the thing that is the tallest and would be the most affected by frost. Furthest away from the heat. But nothing else cares. It looks like this was charred, probably got frosted a little bit. But the basil doesn't care. Everything else doesn't care. I had to be a little careful in the greenhouse. I don't know if you can see that. Right there. That's a yellow jacket. A lot of times you get yellow jackets that hide out in the plants, so you have to be careful about touching them. But I just wanted to see what was going to happen. I'll have Kaya come in and water, but I think I want to have her come in and water after the day gets just a little bit warmer. I'll have her water then.